All right, we are ready to go. It is Monday, July 1st at 7:30, and I call the meeting of the Brainerd City Council to order. Tony, please call the roll.
Chesak.
Here.
O'Day.
Here.
Stunek. Here. Terry. Here. Stingline.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Bevins.
Here.
Badeau.
Mayor Bordeaux is absent, and regretfully so. He called me this afternoon. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 4 is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion on this item?
So approved.
Hey,
Mr. Chair.
yeah, hang on one second, but I'll get right back to you, Chief. Mr. Chesak?
Yes, I'd like to amend the agenda to include discussion of the recent strike development.
Thank you. If there's no objections, I will turn it back to Stunek to
Make a motion.
a motion
approve
to the amended agenda.
the amended agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Stunek, a second by Terry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We're going to add that item to 8, new business, 8B, a strike update. Thank you all. Next up is the consent calendar. This is a notice to the public that all matters listed are considered routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call. Is there a motion to approve? Motion to adopt by Chesak. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Stingline. Any discussion? Hearing none. Tony, please call the roll.
Chesak.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Stingline.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes, the consent calendar has been adopted, and we are officially underway. Next up is item 6, council committee reports. Let's start with 6A, Safety and Public Works Committee Chairman Mike O'Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. We just had 6 items tonight. First item was consideration of an ordinance pertaining to homeless encampments and structures. Motion coming out of committee was to direct staff to move forward with coming back with an ordinance based on loosely or based on the Rochester ordinance on the same issues, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Chesak. Any discussion? Mr. O'Day?
Any specific questions can be directed towards Chief Davis or James Kramvik on this one, but we have had an increase in some complaints of homeless encampments and some dangerous concerns that have been involved with those. In discussion with staff coming up with a solution to this, this is the best that we can come up with at this time. The solution isn't to punish people for being homeless, it's to encourage them to get help. And we have a lot of that in place right now. I know we have some good programs with that, but this gives our police department a little bit more tools for enforcement.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Kara Terry?
Councilmember O'Day is very correct. I appreciate that. You mentioned all the resources that are in place. The portion of this potential ordinance that I will not agree with is fining our homeless population or citing them with a dollar amount associated. Many of them do not have employment and would not be able to pay a fine, so we'd be criminalizing homelessness. And then I missed the Public Works meeting, but Safety and Public Works, did you mention, Councilmember O'Day, that someone passed away in that update? And can you just remind me which one you were, who you were referencing?
There was a death in the river area down by the landing. I don't know exactly the location of it, but it
Okay.
was someone found in one of these encampments. This was, I don't know, Chief Davis, maybe a month ago?
Yeah, you are correct.
I just wanted to confirm, because I got a text from someone saying that whatever was mentioned was incorrect, so I just wanted to make sure that we had the correct information on the record. That's all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. Bevins?
Mr. Chesak?
Yeah, there were a couple of items we asked staff to come back with that are in here that will have changed or amended. One of them was police would not enforce unless there is a 24-hour, 365 homeless shelter, which we don't have. So that language will be changed coming back, and I can't quite recall the other item. Maybe you could help me there, Mike?
Well, we were going to check into the ruling on what the Supreme Court ruled on last week and make sure that our new ordinance is in line with that.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Bemis.
Thank you.
Got something here?
James.
Yeah, I got it. I'm just checking with the council first. Mr. Kramvik.
Thank you, Mr. President. And the other item just wanted to remind was that it wouldn't just include city property or right-of-way, but also all public property, which would include tax forfeit.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's see, we had, next item was direction on additional police enforcement for parks after hours. Motion coming out of committee was just to continue council to continue support to direct police staff to continue additional parks after hours enforcement. I so move.
We have a motion by O'Day, second by Chesak. Any discussion? Mr. Chair?
Say, it's been noticed that there's been an increase in some vandalism in our parks and some of our public areas. Our police department has been on it. They've been enforcing more at night, trying to catch these vandals. They've caught a lot of them. A lot of them are young individuals, but they keep popping up every time one gets caught. But I think continued enforcement with what they've been doing is eventually going to win.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you. Item number 3 was a bid awarding for improvement 24-3 2024 large patching project. Motion coming out of committee was to direct staff to award the large patching project to Anderson Brothers in the amount of $47,950 and further authorize staff to work with Anderson Brothers to complete additional patching on Southwest 4th Street not to exceed the budgeted amount of $50,000, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Stengline. Any discussion on the patching project? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you. Item number 4 is information on locations of annexation requirements for water sewer connection. This is an informational item, and I would like to send this one over to
Jesse?
Public Works Director Jesse Dean.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I've included a few different documents based on the request from council at the last meeting. Not going to go through it in too much detail, but attached are the resolution talking about the connection charge projects. So there was 4 of them. Second was a policy that was adopted in 2003. That policy was adopted kind of right in front of these connection charge projects. So it was kind of intended that the policy was kind of being enacted for those projects, but it was actually worded generic in nature, so it was in general, so it applies kind of to any property. And then third is the current street and sewer assessment policy that applies throughout for current installation of municipal utility projects and the practice of annexing properties before assessing them for those utility improvements, and then referencing the previous practice of connection charges. So with that, it was just more of an information, providing some of the information that was requested by the council. Staff's recommendation is that more of these requirements are reflected better in the city code. As part of the water system section 700, BPU is looking to update that. Staff would look to make sure that that's well reflected, to just kind of marry the policies together and make sure they all talk together.
Any questions of staff on this? I have one, Mr. Dean, Mr. Chair, if you mind.
No, go ahead. That's
I noticed that on that last, we were discussing the connection fee as somewhere between 10,000, what we thought we had charged for this one property in question on Riverside Drive. We had discussed a range between 10,000, which was roughly what we charged the last person to pay the connection fee, and 17,000, which is what staff thought would be the correct with interest to date. I noticed that ordinance that I signed in '04 says 13,000. So maybe all those things could be considered when we come up with our connection policy for everything in the future. Not, of course, the one we did already make a motion on at 10,000. But it looks like there should be no confusion. As a matter of fact, if I'm reading correctly, it's not a range between 10,000 and 17,000. It's exactly $13,389.37. That was what the connection charge was then, and I don't recall ever changing that. So I think that gives clear direction. Go ahead.
So I can clarify, so there was actually a resolution that was adopted on a yearly basis. That was kind of part of the policy of the connection charges. So this was just one example. There was one resolution that was adopted each year, one in '04, '05, '06, '07, with a different number. For Riverside, for example, staff just took this as a sample, but there's several of these for Riverside for establishing a different number of those connection charges. So there's different numbers for Riverside based on the year.
I presume the different number is the interest.
Correct.
Yeah, so
Yep.
it shouldn't be this difficult.
Right.
I just have heard, a $7,000 range. There isn't one. There is a number. It may not be current, but there is a number with a mathematical equation. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Mr. Bevins?
Yeah.
The number we chose or voted on for this one property was 11,300.
11,300, thank you.
So that was the last amount that was ever paid, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. Okay,
Right.
right.
But I think it would have, there could have probably been a more accurate or exact number based on what Jesse just said. Right, I'm happy with the number we picked. So, any other comments on this or questions? Please proceed.
I have a question, actually.
Oh, go ahead.
We did ask for this information. There was no motion tonight regarding this and the policy changes or cleaning this up. Does staff want direction on when we want this back?
Right now, we're operating under the current street and sewer assessment policy. That's the third attachment in the item. So we'll continue to operate under that unless the council has different direction. But like I said, this is something that we would like to see included as the code as well, so that's better reflected there as well.
Okay.
Okay. All right, next item, we have direction on active code enforcement cases. Tonight, we had 3 different addresses, 319 9th Street North, 401 4th Avenue Northeast, 408 2nd Avenue Northeast, all for different issues that they have not been in contact with our staff. Motion was to go ahead with staff's recommendations in the memo, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Chesak. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last item was just a notification of a CRP grant award for the Trunk Highway 210 Lum Park Pedestrian Bridge. This is a federal grant. We were awarded $1.336 million for the year 2025 and $86,000 for the year 2026. This is a good chunk of money, but we need a lot more, so we're going to continue to look for those different grants and different things to get it to the point where we have somewhere between $5 and $6 million to get this project done, but we need to get it done quickly. So that's all.
Any questions before we move on the CRP grant award for the Trunk Highway 210 Lum Park Pedestrian Bridge?
Just looking for the pot of money under that rainbow, Mr. Bevins.
Well, bless your heart, Mr. Chesak. Thank you. Keep looking.
Yeah.
Hearing nothing else, please proceed.
And a report.
Thank you. We'll go on to item 6, Council Committee Reports B, Person and Finance Committee Chairman Gabe Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not feeling so well today, so I'm gonna hand it over to Kara Terry to handle the report this week.
Thank you.
Big shoes to fill, Mr. President, so here we go.
I'm here for you.
Thanks. So the first item is around the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust Premium Renewal for March 2024 through February 2025. The recommended action is that we approve the insurance renewal from LMCIT for the period of March 1, 24 to February 28th, 25.
I so move.
We have a motion by Stunek, second by Gabe. Any discussion? Madam Chair.
So during our PNF meeting, we did have representatives from LMCIT come and present to us to talk through the reasons for the changes. The council did budget $195,163 for the city for the 10 months of '24. This was budgeted at a 3.2% increase, where the actual increase for the city is going to be 5.5% and an 8.1% overall increase in the policy.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Chesak.
I apologize. I missed what Chair Johnson had stated there. I had this thing going in my ear. Is there a minority vote here?
No. Mr. Johnson has turned the chairmanship for this meeting over to Kara Terry due to not feeling well.
Sorry. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the insurance? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Please proceed.
All right, the second one is to accept with regret the retirement of Street Maintenance 1, Michael Jensen. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion.
That part.
Motion by Terry, second by Stunek. Any discussions? Madam Chair?
So with this motion, we accept with regret the retirement of Michael Jensen. We sure do appreciate his service. He's done a great job for the city.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Does this motion include backfilling?
No.
Okay.
Does it? Yes. I apologize. It does authorize staff to begin the hiring process to backfill the maintenance one position. Thank you, Mr. Chesak. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Please proceed.
All right. Come up. There we go. This is a request to authorize a backfill of the police officer position that is currently vacant. So we'd like to, I will make a motion to authorize staff to begin the hiring process for that vacant police officer position, and I so move.
Second.
Motion by Terry, second by Johnson. Any discussion? Madam Chair?
So on June 17th, we approved the separation agreement for a police officer. We want to begin the hiring process for that vacant position. By filling the vacant position, we will return to 27 sworn officers on staff as budgeted.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Please proceed.
All right, next up is to consider the Central Business District Incentive Policy. Recommended motion is to recommend one of the three. So staff is seeking direction from the PNF Committee for a revised policy and resolution for the Central Business District Incentive Policy. And our PNF Committee had chosen the number 1 option, right? Yes, the number 1 option for approval. So I make the motion to approve the recommending approval of the EDA proposed Central Business District map with the same incentives as the River to Rail District.
Second.
We have a motion by Terry, a second by Stunek. Any discussion?
President Bevins,
Mr. Chesak?
my apologies again. Could it give a brief description of that area? I'm limited to what I can see on a map, so.
Right. Mr. Krambeck, can you give us the highlights?
Yeah, so the original River to Rails district was the river to it'd be 19th Street Southeast and kind of 13th Street Southeast, and then from Washington down to Oak Street. The proposed change then would be going essentially along Washington Street, extents of the western boundary to the eastern boundary, so businesses accompanying that as well as potential residential properties. And then also including South 6th Street, the properties adjacent to that, that would go from the existing River to Rails district on that Oak Street area down to Buffalo Hills Lane East.
Mr. President?
Mr. Chesak?
Ask Mr. Kramvik a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
James, when we met on, at the public utility meeting, they did not recommend this, is that correct?
They did not provide any type of recommendation. They did, I would include in the memo, they did have concerns about giving away too much sack and whack, which is sewer accessibility and water accessibility charges. So there was some concern about expanding the district. However, they did not, I guess, provide a specific recommendation to city council.
And that's in your memo?
That was, yep, that was in the memo.
I apologize, I missed that. So that was shared with the PNF meeting?
It was.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Bevins,
Jessica, you have the chair, or the floor.
I like to incentivize business growth and opportunity, but sometimes we have to look at where we get money to pay for things, and the cost of doing business is expensive, and it's not just sack and whack, and it's not some of these permits and that type of thing. It's all the regulations we look at, and I'd like to be able to help wherever we can, but if we're just going to, I hate to say it this way, but give away the farm when somebody wants to put in a business, is $300 sack and whack really going to prevent somebody from putting in a business or starting something up? I just don't know if we're making the right decision here. I'm kind of basing this on some of the opinions I heard at the Public Utility Commission members make, and it seems we have to look at where our money comes from and who pays it, and how do we pay for all these other things that we're always struggling to find money for. So at this point, I'm going to be voting no on this, because I think we have to find a better way than incentivizing is good, but I think we have to find a better way, because we're losing funds.
Thank you, Mr. Chesak. Is there any other discussion on the Central Business District incentive policy? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Please proceed.
All right, our next item, Mr. President, is to discuss the use of vacant building registration fees. My motion tonight is to direct staff to create a separate account for vacant building registry fees contingent upon city council approval of the proposed ordinance 1569, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Terry, a second by Johnson. Any discussion? Madam Chair?
President, City Council, we conducted the first reading of the proposed ordinance 1569. We'd like to consider creating the separate account for the use of the vacant building registry fees. Staff doesn't anticipate collecting many fees within the first year, but is anticipating quicker action from property owners to demolish, rehabilitate, or sell their property. Fees may be collected in the future as properties go into tax forfeiture with this assessment applied to the property. The new property owner would be required to pay the fee upon closing, and the fees generated could be placed into a specific account, and funds could be directly used for purchasing and demolishing blighted properties.
Thank you. Any further comments or discussion on the vacant building registration fees? Hearing none, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Please proceed.
Next is the draft policy on requests for city-owned parcels, and my motion tonight is to adopt the attached policy on requests for city-owned parcel, and I so moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Terry, a second by Stunek. Madam Chair.
This policy includes direction based on the discussion by council that directs staff to obtain a property appraisal for requests and present that appraisal to the city council for review. The council would then direct staff on a selling price to provide to the requester.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Please proceed.
All right, and finally, the next item is to consider amending the number of temporary licenses or authorize a refund fee. And my motion is to direct staff to amend the city code 1200.03 subdivision 6 to match the state statute allowing an organization to hold a temporary on-sale liquor license for 12 days within a 12-month period. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Terry, a second by Johnson. Any questions or comments? Terry.
So PNF reviewed this. We looked through the different options and agreed that the best option would be to match the state statute to avoid any confusion.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, we have a motion by Terry, a second by Johnson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Please proceed.
End of report.
Thank you. Next up is item 7, unfinished business, call for applicants. With no objection, I'm going to read the openings that the mayor has first, and then the ones that the council chair has. The mayor has on his docket, Charter Commission, 2 terms to expire in 2026 and 2 terms to expire in 2025. Park Board, 1 term to expire in 2026. Transportation Advisory Committee, 2 terms to expire in 2026. And also the mayor has the Economic Authority, 1 term to expire on September 7th of 2026. As council president, I have 1 term on the Parking Commission to expire in 2026 and 1 term to expire in 2028. Next up is item 7B, consideration of an interim use permit for outdoor storage as a principal use at 1918 TC Drive. Mr. Kramvik?
Thank you, Mr. President. So Jerry Tang has submitted a request on behalf of VCV for an interim use permit for outdoor storage as a principal use to operate a crypto mining facility at 1918 TC Drive. The original site plan, as a reminder, included 12 containers and cooling towers that were 20 feet in length. The new proposed site plan includes 26 containers that house the data mining machines with attached cooling towers. The new containers are 40 feet in length and utilize immersion technology. The EDA, just to update City Council, did hold a special meeting on June 26th to consider a revised purchase and development agreement to extend the construction commencement deadline, revise the minimum improvements for 1918 TC Drive, and noted the transfer of outstanding membership interests of the developer to Ann Ching. The EDA motioned and approved staff to send a letter to VCV indicating they are in default of the PDA, specifically the time required to start the minimum improvements. The remedy to default has not been determined at this time. The decision by the EDA should have no bearing on the decision for this IUP. Staff included the sound report that was requested by City Council, and I can certainly answer any questions regarding the sound report. Staff does believe that the sound levels are within MPCA standards. However, there are many factors that are not accounted for in this study that could increase or lower decibel readings, such as vegetation, above or below average temperatures, humidity, air pressure, topography, and proximity of containers. Not significant changes, but certainly could alter it by a few decibels when you're looking at some of the distances that we're looking at. Staff has found no information in the report to contradict the findings. As a reminder, the Planning Commission recommended the denial of the interim use permit based on irregularities with the comprehensive plan. Staff does recommend approval of the interim use permit with the following conditions. The permit is contingent upon the Brainerd EDA approving the material change in the construction plans and extending the construction commencement deadline. The permit shall expire after 1 year of beginning crypto mining operations. The applicant shall submit a hazardous waste plan for approval by the Community Development Department, Engineering Department, and Fire Department. The IUP is terminated upon operations discontinuing as a crypto mining facility. Immersion mining is the only permissible crypto mining allowed at the property. And 2 additional ones that staff is recommending that were not part of the original report, but were kind of based on concerns from surrounding citizens, is that noise generated by the facility shall meet MPCA regulations. This could be put right into conditions. It is a condition of the IUP as well within the allowed use section. And also a sound study be conducted between April and October at the expense of Ann Ching, conducted by a third-party engineering firm if the facility is operational. So again, staff recommends approval as the property owners are entitled to an interim use permit if they satisfy the conditions in the allowed use section and the rules and administration of interim use permits. Reasonable conditions can be added to protect neighboring properties. And with that, I can answer any questions. I did send a meeting invite out to the applicants. I'm not sure if they're online. Attorney Langle can also answer any questions that City Council may have.
Okay. Let's start with any questions for staff. Mr. Orday.
So, Mr. Kramvik, there was an email earlier today, and I know you sent us an email in response saving questions for when we get here today. It seems like there's some discrepancy in interpretation of the MPCA guidelines and how we're going to make sure that things are met, and as far as the decibel ratings. Could you just go over what you sent us in an email?
Yeah, so when you're looking at these different levels and requirements, you have levels 1, 2, and 3. So you can see these are based on kind of the third category, which looks at agricultural land, forested land, that type of, I guess, that type of situations. There are homes that are also on these properties as well. The closest properties are strictly agricultural, but they're zoned residential. Some of the other ones that the houses are on are zoned residential. There is a house on them. I guess the back half of the property is forested land. So when you're looking at this, the MPCA is looking at use. So from a staff perspective, backyards around the house, that's considered a residential use. The other part of the property, in my interpretation, would still be forested land or agricultural land. So that specifically, let me pull it up. And Brent, I don't know if you can pull that email. I sent it to you via email. So specific language is noise area classifications are based on land use at the location of the person who hears the noise, which does not always correspond with the zoning district. So it does intend to look at use. Having that clarification in there, a requirement of the IUP that they do have to meet MPCA guidelines, staff can reach out to the MPC to see if they have an interpretation for that, which then means they would have to be upheld to that interpretation as well.
Thank you. So the testing that you mentioned is part of your recommendation that you want included. It's not specifically in your memo, correct?
It's not specifically in the memo. This was a recommendation added at this council meeting, but a sound study could certainly be conducted, required to be paid by Ann Ching to make sure that they're within guidelines of the MPCA requirements.
Okay.
You have the floor.
I don't have any more questions really, but if I do have a recommendation, but if you want me to do that now or later.
No, let's see if we have any more questions, and then I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair, when it comes time to do that. So Tiffany Sigline.
So, James, just because, is it a parcel by parcel what the use is? Or is it like square foot by each square foot is determined separately, or?
So,
like how thin do we cut the?
Yeah, so that, there's a lot of interpretation that could be there. I'm not sure if the MPCA has a strict interpretation or not. Certainly, any industrial uses going forward have to be upheld to the same standards. Besides county property, the city has rural residential property. This is kind of our holding zone, which would be RL1. These can be 40-acre parcels where you have a house kind of in the corner of it, but it's agricultural land, it's vacant land, so, really, if the sound touches the end of the 40 acres, should that be considered a residential property? Again, looking at use, I would make the interpretation as the area where the residents are actually using the property.
It's so I live in town. I don't really use the back half of my backyard is about 10 feet wide. I only use the path to get to my house. So is that not residential use then for the rest of it?
When you're looking at a small property like that, certainly, that would be considered, all residential property. When you're looking at these 20, 40-acre parcels, I think in my opinion, there's a different interpretation for that. But certainly can reach out to the MPCA before, moving forward with that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of staff?
Mr. Bevins.
Mr. Chesak?
Yeah, James, when you say we can look to the MPCA for clarification, and going through the information that was provided, it says the property. Doesn't distinguish, it does, and what you're saying to us then, if it's residential or agricultural, the sound requirements are not as enforceable unless it's residential? Is that what I'm hearing?
So residential just has a higher classification that they have to meet than an agricultural forested area would. So the other one still does have to meet requirements, but residential is held to a higher standard.
So if there's a home that's adjacent to this facility if it goes in, and it's got a number of hundreds of feet of trees or grassy area, whatever, say it's a couple hundred feet or more. It's on the 30 or 40 acre spot or acreage like you indicated. When you read this, it says the property, and being that there is a residence on there, you would assume then that they're going to measure the sound at the location of the home. Would that be correct?
That's how I'm interpreting it, the home in the backyard.
And you're saying that the MPCA can make that determination how they gauge this based on the situational property?
And I could reach out to them for clarification, but I'm strictly looking at use. The back half of the properties are forested areas, really nothing in that area. So that's how staff's interpreting it at this time with the MPCA guidelines.
So would you recommend if we want to get this officialdom indication from the MPCA, it should be part of any motion that might be made? Because once we decide on whatever we're going to do here tonight, it's something that I would like to see done based on, if it's the property, then I would assume it's the property line. You're saying use. That's your interpretation, which I respect, but at the same time, we need to hear from the MPCA. So I would ask that if there's any motion to move forward on this, that we include that as part of our motion to get the official MPCA determination as to what they consider to be the property, as it's written here in the document that was provided to us today by, I think it was Sarah Tisi.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Chesak?
Not right now, Mr. Bevins, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask another time if there's any other questions of staff. I have one, and that's, now there was 7 conditions with the 2 you've added. Condition 1 says this permit is contingent on the EDA approving the material change. I might question that. The EDA has ruled not to extend or alter the agreement. Are you suggesting that On Cheng is withdrawing their interim use permit if the EDA does not change its ruling? I'm confused as to item 1. As to why that would be, is that you putting that on? Or is that they don't want this?
Nope, that's my recommendation, to put that on there, because in order to really move forward, they need an approval from the EDA as well. And at this time,
theoretically, this whole thing goes back to the EDA.
right now, the EDA has sent a 30-day letter saying they're in default. The next meeting, there'll have to be considerations from the EDA on what the EDA's recommendation is to remedy the situation. Is it to suspend the contract? Does the EDA review what City Council has determined here and potentially move forward with it? Do they potentially look at retaking the property? So at the next EDA meeting, there's going to have to be considerations of what the remedy is going to be. At this point, the 30-day letter has been sent saying they are in default of the loan.
Okay.
Or default of the contract.
So your suggestion, just to clarify, is not to approve the IUP unless first the EDA, okay, so your recommendation is to make this IUP contingent on that?
That's correct.
So they don't want it, okay. Huh. Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Bevins?
Chesak,
Okay.
round 2.
I want to just make sure. I read here over and over again, Mr. Kramovic, that we have to have a really significant reason to deny this interim use permit for the 26 40-foot storage units. Is that correct?
Yes, so a reason has to be given for outdoor storage as a principal use based on the allowed use section, which are found in the findings of fact, as well as the rules and administration for administering interim use permits. So it has to be based on any of those reasons in there.
Okay. And you haven't shown us any of those reasons, have you?
Staff's recommendation is for approval
Okay. So,
with conditions.
okay, but you haven't shown us any reasons why we were able to deny this based on the request they're making.
Staff has not.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Bevins.
I have a question for you, Mr. Chesak.
Yes.
Your last question said 26 by 40. My IUP,
26 units that are 40 feet long.
right, is this IUP predicated on that? What difference does the IUP have the size of the units in it?
It does.
Got it. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Any other questions? I'm gonna just, you're ready to make a motion, or do you have another question?
No, I don't have a question, I just have
You ready? Yep, you got it. I just wanted to while we're still in the staff portion, Mr. Langle, anything you want to add? And then you get you to be next. No, I think okay. Kramvik has stated. Thank you. Mr. O'Day, the floor is yours.
So I like that the last recommendation is added. It's not on the memo, but it is added. But I do see it being a problem in the future, no matter which way we go. Because they could build a house anywhere on that parcel whenever they want. That's their right to do so, to split it up however they want. And that could then become an issue. That's an MPCA issue. It's not a Brainerd issue, it's a state issue. So then it is an issue. So in order to avoid that entire issue going forward, whether we want this as a community or not, if you're going to try to avoid that, if you bring up the Glencoe study that you guys looked into, it looks like they're making this facility build walls around it to block sound. If we add 10 to 12 foot concrete walls around the facility to block sound, that should mitigate a lot of those issues. I still think everything else should be in as a recommendation, but I won't vote yes on this one unless there's a 10 to 12 foot concrete wall, at least a foot thick, around the entire facility. And that's my recommendation, to add that. So if you want a
So
motion.
you're making a motion that eighth condition be added, correct? I just want to clarify.
I can make that motion.
You just did, kind of. That's why I'm clarifying, so we can look, we know what we're looking for a second on. So we have a motion by O'Day to build a 10 to 12 foot, can you be more specific?
12 foot.
12-foot concrete wall around the entire property or around the storage containers?
Around that parcel with the storage containers.
Around the parcel, the entire parcel. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by O'Day, a second by Stingline to build a 12-foot tall concrete wall around the entire parcel. I see staff is whispering. Any discussion on that?
Mr. Bevin?
Mr. Chesak?
I like the idea in theory. However, not being a sound engineer, I don't even know if that's a thing, but I'd be hesitant to make this part of this permit only because are there better materials that this a company could use? Or is there a more effective way to do it? To limit it to just a concrete block wall, that may not be the best. And I mean, I'd like to see it more of a sound deadening material.
Like concrete?
Excuse me?
Like concrete?
Do I have the floor, Mr. Chair?
You do?
Thank you. So I'd like to see it with something that engineer of sorts would look at this and say, here's the best material. I don't know if concrete is the best. I like to think that it would be, but I don't know. So we're just throwing something out there because it sounds good. So I'd like to be able to support it if it was something more where the could be directed to use the best material, perhaps, instead of just limiting it to just concrete block.
It's concrete, not concrete block was what you added. The motion just says concrete. Could be block, could be.
Good point.
board.
Very good point.
You'll get a chance. Oh, let's go ahead. Mr. Kramvik, you do have a comment. I saw you whispering. But as part of your comment, can you please give us some idea of the dimensions of this parcel, roughly? Go ahead.
Dimensions, I'd have to look into that. You know, I can you're gonna look at, okay, Jesse will look into the dimensions. You know, one potential for the wall, I know it's being kind of discussed here, it could be, contingent upon approved soundproofing walls, from city council prior to construction, so it could be revisited. City council could then approve, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Joe, that city council could then approve a sound wall based on engineered drawings.
Well, council, my couple concerns, where if they had asked for one of these things, I believe they would have required a variance to get it in the first place. It seems a little odd that you're demanding something that would have required them to get a variance in the first place. I don't, now you're treading into potentially arbitrary conditions here. And then any kind of condition you put on this needs to really emanate from your code, right? To have some basis for it. And, you know, it's one thing in some zones where we talk about, you know, screening with trees and whatever, that kind of stuff. It's not uncommon. I guess, unless James corrects me, I'm not aware of anything in your code that requires massive 10, 12-foot sound walls. I think you've got a recycling plant in your industrial park somewhere. I don't know, do they have sound walls around them, around that recycling plant?
It's not a 24-hour sound producing factory.
Well, this isn't a 365 one either. So I'm just putting it out there. Well, coolers don't run in the winter. That's why they, you know, they're quieter because they're not running the cooling so much. I'm not advocating for or against. I'm just saying that we got to be careful about what gets included in a potential motion.
Thank you. All right. The motion is the 12-foot around the perimeter. Do we have any size at all, Jesse, as to how big this compound would be?
It was approximately 160 by 300.
Okay, roughly. Any questions on the wall, comments on the wall? I mean, I like the idea of sound deadening. I think that's good. I like it as part of a condition. I think I might vote against this because I'm with Mr. Chesak. I'd like a condition to be a sound deadening plan. Work with the developer and staff. Because I kind of like the idea of trees better than a 12-foot high concrete wall. Well, I mean, we do that all the time. Buffer zones with trees. They do sound deadening along the highways all the time. I understand what you're saying, and I'm supporting it, but I think the 12-foot concrete wall probably may not be.
15 would be better.
15, right. Well, then theoretically, we could make it be in the building. But anyway, that would be the way I'm talking about. Any other discussion? Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I'm with the president on this one. I think I would like to see the motion re-evaluated and come back with an eighth contingency that does have staff administratively approve some sound barriers on the perimeter of the property. But I will vote no on a 900-foot long, 12-foot tall, 1-foot thick concrete wall.
I think it'd be thicker than that at 12 feet tall. Mr. Stunek?
Who would pay for the wall?
It's not part of the motion, but my interpretation is the developer, or the property owner. Any other comments? So let's ask, we all understand the motion? Tony, you want to call the roll on the 12-foot wall?
Chesak?
No.
O'Day?
Yes.
Stunek?
No.
Terry?
No.
Stingline?
Yes.
Johnson?
No.
Bevins?
No. That motion is defeated. Okay, anybody else care to make a stab at a motion?
Mr. President, I would like to move to approve with all of the conditions that James had said, including the ones that are not written, with 2 changes.
Okay?
I would like, instead of naming Ansheng, I would like it to be the property owner,
Okay?
just in case that changes. And I would like to have, instead of the permit shall expire 1 year, after 1 year of beginning the crypto mining operations, I want a specific date, and I am going to propose December 31st, 2025.
Okay? So no sound deadening in your motion. Okay? Is there a second to the motion as proposed by Councilperson Stingline? I will ask a second time. And I will ask a third and final time, and the motion dies for lack of second. Let's keep going.
A shot at this.
Yeah, you know what, Gabe? Take us home on this, cowboy.
I'd move approval with the 5 conditions listed, the 2 James brought up, and an 8th that is a sound deafening barrier on the property approved by staff.
Staff only, not, doesn't have to.
Staff only, doesn't have to come back to the council, and I do like Tiffany's changes of changing it to the owner instead of naming a specific company name.
Got it.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, a second by Chesak. So this would be the 7 conditions, an 8th condition that includes a sound barrier approved by staff, a plan, a sound deadening plan, and then changing the specific name of the company to the property owner. All understand? Any discussions on the motion?
And that comes back at the end of 2025, right? The
Correct.
IUP, okay.
Is that correct, Mr. Krambeck? Yep. It's a 1-year permit.
Staff had recommended 1 year after beginning operations. Tiffany's last motion had recommended that end date.
Mr.
My
Motioner?
motion did not, if that's what we want, I would amend the motion. I'm indifferent to the end date.
Mr. Chesak, you're the seconder. What do you want?
I'll go along with Mr. Johnson.
Well, pick one. You want, okay, then it's gonna be what the initial thing said, which is 1 year after start of operations. Okay? Questions on the motion only,
Comments?
or comments?
Okay, so I have a bit written down here because
Yeah.
I'm a planful person.
Take your time.
So based on my understanding, this IUP is a separate permit and should be treated as such. The initial IUP was not followed through or completed, and the company had to file a new one. In doing so, I will not be approving this IUP for outdoor storage. I really appreciate all of the staff work to bring us as much information as possible. I also believe we can't know the true decibel rating until or unless the storage is built. We do know there will be a noise impact to the surrounding residents. And let me just say this, I know a noisy neighborhood, so I live in South Brainerd, and I hear the recycling business, the UPS trucks, the beverage business, which I have to say sometimes runs a little bit late into the night. And I get there's noise associated with businesses. I purchased my home knowing that these businesses were near me, and I expected the noise. The good news is the noise does stop at night and on Sundays. The noise associated with this project would be continuous with the exception of a few key times. In addition to the noise, I am unclear and concerned about the business ownership. VCV notes it is a Delaware limited company. However, when I Google Ancheng Holdings, I find this company associated with China, London, and Dubai. I understand VCV is the technical owner, but 100% of the shares are with Ancheng Holdings. Based on the work of the crypto mining facility, the ownership and the proximity to Camp Ripley and the concerns raised at our last meeting regarding that, I will vote no. A little bit longer, bear with me, guys. Initially, when this IUP was developed, there were discussions around the comprehensive plan and how this IUP was in line with that and what we visioned the city of Brainerd to be. This included the development of a job-producing facility within the industrial park and to increase the tax base of the city. While I understand the facility won't be a great job producer, as noted in previous testimony, there is a portion of the agreement that does note the facility would be job producing, and obviously that has not come to fruition. In addition, on page 1 of the original purchase and development contract, it notes the authority believes that the development of the development property pursuant to this agreement and fulfillment generally of this agreement are in the vital and best interests of the city and the health, safety, morals, and welfare of its residents in accord with the public purposes and provisions of the applicable state and local laws. While we've seen this as a revenue source, it's at what cost? The comprehensive plan notes, and I agree, we want to support our local businesses. We want to encourage the quality of life through new services and amenities. This storage facility does not fulfill several of these objectives. I don't claim to know a lot about electricity, but I do know the storage facility would use a great deal of electricity. And it's my understanding that we're trying to move towards a carbon-free or carbon-neutral city. The comprehensive plan on page XII notes Goal 3, under facilities and infrastructure, we want to ensure adequate water and power supply to meet the long-term needs of the community and steer city development to energy and resource conservation by promoting renewable energy sources, protecting our water supply, and leveraging the hydroelectric dam. This is not green energy, the crypto mining facility. To Councilmember Duval's comments in 2022, this does not align with our comprehensive plan. This IUP does not fulfill what is put forth in our comprehensive plan, and there is no environmental concerns related to the, or there are environmental concerns related to the cooling liquid and monitoring, testing, and disposing. For me, when I know better, I do better. At the time this was originally proposed, it may have made sense, and there was limited information regarding the impacts. Now we understand more of the impact and how this additional storage does not fit into what I see as the proper direction for the city of Brainerd. So I'll be voting no.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions regarding the motion? Mr. Chesak.
I have a question. Mr. Kramvik, does the comprehensive plan apply to the interim use permit in any way, shape, or form?
It is parts of the, it'd be the rules and administration. Is it in compliance with the comprehensive plan? Again, this IUP is for outdoor storage as a principal use. So that's a bit different than looking at the crypto mining itself. And that's how staff looked at it versus what Planning Commission's interpretation was.
Okay. And I would just say that the carbon neutral, I think, is getting confused here with some of the comments I heard.
Please respond to the motion, not to Terry's speech. In favor or against? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to get you and Kara in an argument.
That's not going to be an argument.
Okay.
I can state I can make my statements as she can.
You can.
Speaking in favor of the motion, there's no carbon neutral element involved in this process. Does that help?
Thank you.
It's a crypto mining manufacturing business. I do not like crypto mining at all. I think it's the devil's spawn. I think this whole thing is a mess. I will support the motion because we have a job to do as council members. I do not want to see this city suffer for the sake of protecting something that is completely unknown at this time. We have mitigation elements in place here by passing this with all the conditions. And as much as I would like to see this go away and never come back again, we have to be responsible to our taxpayers, our citizens, and our neighbors. And so that's why an interim use permit gives us the best way to mitigate any potential problems in the future. Thank you, Mr. Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chesak. Any other comments, questions on the motion? I'll ask a second time. I'm going to ask if the council will allow a roll call. I will ask a third and final time, and I will close the discussion. We have the motion. Tony, please call the roll.
Chesak.
Remember, if you vote yes, you're voting in favor of the 8 conditions and the 1 change. Thank you,
Yes.
Tony.
O'Day.
No.
Stunek.
No.
Terry.
No.
Stengline.
Yes.
Johnson.
No.
Bevins.
Yes, and the motion fails 4-3. Anyone want to try again?
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry, I heard something, but we're not allowing for any public comment at this time. I'm just going to ask a second time if there's anybody on the council who wishes to make another shot at this motion. Otherwise, the interim permit is effectively denied, is my interpretation. Mr. Krambeck.
A motion would need to be made for denial. They have to be given an answer, and a specific reason for denial would have to be included in that
Sure,
motion.
we'll look for one of the no's to give us a motion to deny, because we have to answer it.
Let me open up my speech again, Mr. President.
You can just refer back to that. I'm sure it's
Yeah,
part of the public.
I'm not gonna read the whole darn thing again, but I'll make the motion to deny the interim use permit. Not sure if I'm gonna get this legally correct, Mr. Kramvik, but I'm gonna give it a shot. So, concern, I'm not sure how to word it, but I'm just gonna say it, okay? So concerns around the noise associated with the facility and the property lines of the property owners. So that is a denial reason for me. The second denial reason it's not in line with the interim use permit. And the third reason is that, oh, good Lord. Pardon?
Comp plan.
Yeah, the comp plan, I'm sorry, not the interim use permit, the comp plan. And the third thing is, pause, hold please. The data that has come to light, or the information that has come to light since the initial contract was approved, demonstrates to me the impact on the environment, the noise impacts on the neighbors, and I think that covers it.
Mr. Kramvik?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Terry, a second by Chesak. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none.
Mr. Bevins?
Yes, Mr. Chesak?
I think based on the 4-3 vote to deny the interim use permit, would be, I think, appropriate for the council to unanimously approve this.
Thank you. Any other comments on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The interim use permit is denied. Thank you. We will move on to item 7C, which is the final reading of public hearing proposed ordinance 1569, a vacant building registry ordinance. Mr. Kramvik?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So structures placed on the vacant building registry are those that are vacant with significant property maintenance issues and violations. The proposed ordinance would charge a fee of $7,000 for properties placed on the registry, but it does give the property owners the ability to make corrections and not incur the fee. City Council conducted the first reading of proposed ordinance 1569 at the June 17th City Council meeting. So with that, staff recommends to conduct the final reading of proposed ordinance 1569 and dispense with the actual reading. Note, a vote to dispense with the actual reading of the ordinance must be unanimous. Number 2, to hold a public hearing. And number 3, approve proposed ordinance 1569, an ordinance pertaining to creating a vacant building registry. And I can answer any questions.
Any questions of staff on the ordinance 1569? Vacant buildings. Hearing none, is there a motion to dispense with the actual reading and hold the final reading of proposed ordinance 1569?
So move.
Second.
By Stune, second by Chesak. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. It is 8:33, and I will open the public hearing on proposed ordinance 1569. And I will ask anybody in the audience who wishes to speak on this ordinance to step forward, state your name and address, and tell us what you think. If you're online, *3 notifies us that you are interested in speaking, and then *6 will unmute you. I will ask a second time if there's anybody who wishes to speak on proposed ordinance 1569. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve proposed ordinance 1569. I'll ask a second time. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion by O'Day, second by Stengline. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Tony, please call the roll.
Chesak?
Yes.
O'Day?
Yes.
Stunek?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Stengline?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Yes.
Bevins?
Ordinance 1569 is adopted. Next up is new business, item 8. Item 8A is consideration of a conditional use permit for the expansion of 2 additional early childhood education classrooms at TriCap at 2410 Oak Street. Mr. Kramvik, do you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So TCC has submitted a request for a conditional use permit to expand their child care facilities by adding 2 additional classrooms at 2410 Oak Street. Each classroom would be licensed for 8 additional children. There will be no exterior improvements or additions to the building. The Planning Commission considered this request at their June 20th meeting and unanimously recommended approval of the CUP with the provision that future additional child occupancy will not require a CUP. Note this was done previously at Trinity Lutheran, as the Planning Commission and City Council determined the site could easily accommodate additional children. This is also a fairly large site in comparison to potentially other smaller childcare centers.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Hearing none, we're looking for a motion.
Move approval.
Motion Johnson, second by Terry. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Johnson?
I just want to say thanks to TCC. We know we need more childcare spots in our community, and I'm just happy to see that they're wanting to add some.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the conditional use permit for TCCAP at 2410 Oak Street, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is 8 new business 8B, strike update. We'll start with our City Administrator Broyles and give us an update.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to update staff on some developments with our Local 31 union. We did receive an electronic version of a letter dated Saturday, June 29th, 2 days ago. I just want to provide a couple excerpts from that letter. So on June 12th, our local members of Local 31 voted to authorize a strike. That was June 12th. On June 28th, they received authorization from IBEW International to strike as well. Then subsequent to that, we got the letter on June 29th. We received that Saturday. Sunday, I called in some key members of the staff, as well as I asked Councilman Chesak and Councilwoman Terry to join us. Councilman Chesak did, so we spoke for a little bit. We probably met for about two or three hours yesterday to talk about some things. So that was the first thing. I just wanted to give an update that we did receive an electronic version that they intend to strike. Now, we do have to receive the hard copy in the mail. We were expecting that potentially today, perhaps tomorrow. We did not get it today. So once we receive the hard copy in the mail, the day after that, the cooling off 10-day period begins. And then also the 30-day window begins that very same day. So the 10-day window begins for the cooling off period. We've also spoken with our state mediator, and they will be available for a mediation session. She's got other things going on, but it looks like maybe the 10th or the 11th, we might have another mediation session. That'll be within that 10-day cooling off period. And then of course, the commissioner, BMS, has the authority to do whatever they so choose. They can call us down to St. Paul if they want to, but that remains to be seen. We'll have to just see what BMS wants to do.
That's Bureau of Mediation Services.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. So that was the first update. So we're just waiting to get the next step. We'll be waiting to get something in the mail, and then the 10-day clock starts, and then we'll talk more. A couple other things. Did we get those things uploaded, Connie? Let's look at the press release. So this is a press release that I intend to send out after the meeting tonight, probably to the Brainerd Dispatch and to Lakeland PBS. I would be happy to entertain comments. I sent this to council maybe a couple hours ago. Just pause if you guys have any questions or comments.
I have a question. So this is to get people to work, to operate our.
This is just a press release to advise the public
it's the next
on
one.
what's going on, but we'll talk about, I think, what you're alluding to.
Got it. Yep.
So if there's no questions on that, let's go to the 2 letters, please. So this is also for council's review. We're going to be sending out a letter to MMUA members, which is the Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association, and we'll be sending out a very similar letter to non-MMUA members requesting assistance if there's something they can do to help us out. So there's 2 letters here, one for MMUA members and one for non-MMUA members. And the press release I want to try to get out tonight, if unless council has any objections. the letters, I think we have a little bit of latitude, you think, Chris Patrick? When do you think we want to get the letters out? We want to wait until we get the actual letter in the mail? Okay. So if there's comments tonight, please share. If you have comments after the meeting, after you've had a chance to review it more, I know this all came kind of short notice.
It sounds like we should probably approve at least letter one, if not all of them tonight.
Move to approve all three.
Staff, yeah, we have one more, right? Do we have one more?
I already showed the second one.
No, we have you have a fourth thing you need to approve tonight.
Well, the fourth thing, it's not for approval for this, but the
Okay.
fourth thing, we can
have
talk
a
about these two
motion.
letters.
I'm gonna have you hang on, because we have a motion by O'Day.
Second.
To approve the 3 letters as presented, second by Chesak. Let's have discussion on that.
And Mr. Bevins?
Terry has her hand up first.
The only thing I wanted to say was I apologize for not being in attendance yesterday. I was in the cities, so thank you for meeting.
Mr. Chesak?
Yeah, I believe these 2 letters and the workings of the press release are part of our planning. I believe that's correct, is it not, Nick?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments on the motion? Approving the 3 letters. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. That motion carries, so you guys are good to go. Mr. Broyles, we'll go back.
Go to the ULP? Do we have that uploaded or not? Okay, so I just want to advise the council that we also received, dated June 28th, on an assertion from an attorney, Andrew Bransky and Poole. It is an unfair labor practice charge against the city of Brainerd. So this is an unfair labor practice asserted against us. We have given all the information to our attorneys. We'll be working through this process in the coming days.
Thank you. Any comments?
I have a question.
Yeah, Mr. Chesak.
Nick, maybe it'd be our question for our attorney. Based on this lawsuit, if you will, are these documents then considered legal attorney-client type privilege documents? Based on,
Mr. Lango?
But what document are you referring to, Mr. Chesak?
notice of the unfair labor
The
practice?
ULP.
No, the ULP is not attorney-client privileged.
Okay, thank you.
That's from the other side, giving notice of a claim.
Thank you.
Anything else, any other questions on that? Mr. Broyles, anything else on the update?
The last thing is I would request from council that they set a special council meeting for July 8th at 6 PM, where we would discuss strike plan updates and a strike resolution in the open session and negotiations in a closed session.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve that?
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Stengline. Any discussion on the special meeting? On the 8th at 6 o'clock in council chambers. That actually will be 2 meetings, an open meeting and a closed meeting. Patrick Wasso.
Would you be kind enough to include the Brainerd Public Utility Commissioners in that meeting on the 8th?
I think so. Any objections? I think they should be. Hearing no objections, that'll be part of the invitation.
All at a joint meeting then?
Yep, a joint, yes, just call it a joint meeting. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, the motion is July 8th, 6 PM in council chambers with public utilities. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Broyles, anything else? You did good. Thank you very much. Next up is item 9, public forum. This is time allocated for citizens to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention of the council. We'd like to have you keep it to a couple minutes if you can. It's 8:43. And if we haven't discussed it this evening, now's your chance. If you're online, *3 will notify us that you wish to speak. *6 will then unmute you. I'll ask a second time if there's anybody who has something new for us this evening. And I will ask a final time. Anybody who wishes to speak on something that's not on the agenda this evening? And it is 8:44, and I will close the public forum. I will turn it over to staff reports. So I don't skip them, start with Eric Charpentier, our HRA director.
Nothing to add this evening, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start to my right, and we'll see Fire Chief Holmes. Anything from the? How about from the police department, Chief Davis?
August 15th, 5 PM to 8 PM, Brainerd Night Out, Gregory Park. The entire city and community is invited. Thank you.
Thank you. Brent, anything from CLC? No. Connie Hillman, our finance director.
Nothing to add.
Jesse Dean, city engineer, public works director.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few different updates for you. Police Chief Davis and I have been watching the Evergreen Landing with the recent flooding in the area. The water's been coming up in that landing quite a bit. So we're just monitoring that to make sure that the area is safe, and then the areas continue to be conducive for traffic to be able to progress through there without tearing apart the area. So we're continuing to watch that. South Brainerd, if you haven't been through there, they did pave the north phase of that. So I'd love for you guys to take a look at that. It's a project that you guys approved, so it looks fantastic. We got the new light poles in there, a lot of the reestablishments down there. It looks really awesome out there in the first phase. Without the mayor here, you really can't talk too much about the arts in the park, but it was from my conversation when I went over there on Sunday, it was a really good event, great weather, went really well over on Sunday. Obviously on the other side of that, hopefully the weather changes come Thursday. Right now the forecast doesn't look so great, but hopefully it turns around and we are able to have a great parade on the 4th of July as well as fireworks. But the plan is still to enjoy both Lyman P. White Park as well as the football fields area and have the 4th of July celebration out there.
Thank you. James Kramvik, Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just a few things. So the EDA has authorized a facade improvement grant, which authorized potentially $5,000 in matching funds for a facade improvement. It's open to all industrial uses, commercial uses within the city of Brainerd. Bladex going to be advertising this within the next week or two, have that kind of advertisement period open for a couple weeks, and then it's a first come, first serve after that for qualifying applicants. So something to stay tuned for businesses. Also, the state aid affordable housing funds that the city received that PNF reviewed. The city did advertise for this. We have received one other application for that. It's open until, I believe, July 26th, and at that point it'll be brought to the first meeting for city council for review. And then lastly, the planning commission considered their upcoming itinerary and items to work on. So they did direct staff to begin working on something the EDA had requested, which is looking at the commercial corridor district, which is kind of the river to about 4th Avenue Northeast. This area, the EDA recommended for potential mixed-use development. Right now, it's only allowed for commercial development. And then in conjunction with that, looking at our design standards within the city. So that's everything I have.
Thank you. Mr. Langell, anything from the attorney's office? How about Chris Schubert, our HR director? Patrick Wasso, Public Utilities Interim Director?
Nothing in addition to the staff report.
Thank you. And City Administrator Broyles.
I would just be remiss if I didn't mention staff, along with council support, is obviously working very, very hard on a variety of significant issues right now. Schedules could be fluid over the next 10 days as we respond to things as they come in, but I just appreciate staff's hard work and council support.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 12, council member reports. Let's start with our two chairmen, Mr. O'Day.
Happy Independence Day. Nothing else to add.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Nothing to add.
How about Kara Terry?
Nothing.
Tiffany Stangline?
Like Jesse, I'm sorry the mayor's not here to talk about arts in the park. I was there all day with Zenobia. For those of you who haven't met her, she's my 1.5-year-old puppy who was requested to be there because she draws in the crowds. And last year, we made butterflies that I talked about at the booth I was at, and people asked me where the butterflies were when I was like, So I brought in the extra frogs this year for anybody who would like one, and let me see if I can get it to do it. They hop. So I have frogs. I don't know if I can reach that far. Can you do it? My arms are short.
Try it.
Oh, that's gonna get an assist from Mike here. Oh, there it goes. Yeah.
I want a butterfly.
I think that's abuse. The animal lovers are gonna go crazy.
It wanted it to end.
So, Arts in the Park was a great time. Glad to see some familiar faces there too, and look forward to Independence Day as well and all of the activities there.
Thank you. Back over here.
My turn? I'm just gonna echo what everybody said. Be safe.
Thank you. Mr. Chesak?
Yeah, I had an interesting thing happen. friend in my apartment building gave me some photos of a sister of another resident who took photos of a lawn service company mowing the lawn and blowing all the grass into the street. And it was interesting. I don't know what business this the gal is in, what business she's in, who took the photos, but she knew that that was against our rules in the city of Brainerd, and apparently the lawn service man did not. So I asked James to look at that, and he's taken appropriate measures. But I did also want to wish everybody a happy Independence Day as well. Thank you.
Thank you, and I just got a text from the mayor wishing everybody a safe and happy 4th of July. So we will leave at that. Look for a motion to adjourn, Mr. Stunek.
So move.
Second by,
Closed session?
Closed session?
no, there,
Mr. Mayor?
there's no closed
No, it's
session.
closed session. Okay.
Okay, second by who?
Me, second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Till next Monday.
A little confused on that one.